Okay, when you lay your fabric out, if you're right-handed, you're going to want to come from here over. Make sure that your mat starts at 0 and goes all, goes down from there. But make sure that you put your fabric at the fold right next to this line right here. It has to be lined up just perfect with this line. And you kept bringing it over past the 0 a little bit so that you can cut off the ends and make the ends even if they're uneven. And you're going to want to make sure that your ruler is lined up with the 0 right here and up here at this line with the 23 or whatever your mat says on yours. And you just take your rotary cutter and you put it beside of it and slice it off. Be sure to hold your ruler down real good, because if you don't, when you go to take that rotary cutter through there, it's going to move your ruler. Okay, and with the pocketbooks that I make, I'm going to go ahead and do the width of the pocketbook first. And my width is 15, no, length, sorry. I'm going to do the length of my pocketbook first. And this time I'm going to do a length of 10.5 inches instead of 12.5, because I want to add some length to my bottom half of the pocketbook. So right here is 10.5. So I'll put my ruler right here at the 10.5. And I make sure that it's at the right spot up here at the top, because if not, you're going to have a crooked line. And you just hold your ruler down as best you can. And you just cut your fabric. And then you just take your extra piece and move it to the side. And this is going to be cutting the front and the back out at the same time. So just make sure that your fabric is right next to this line, and that it's at the 10.5 mark up here, and it's even. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this side off, because it's at the fold right there, and I want it to be 2 separate pieces instead of 1 piece. And if I don't cut this fold right here, it's going to be 1 piece. Okay, and then I'm going to go over to 14.5. And then I'm going to make sure that that is at the half mark up there, and that it's even. Another way you can make sure that your lines are even is if you take this line on your ruler here and match it up with the line that's on your mat right there. And then make sure that you're even. Press down as hard as you can so that your fabric don't move. Make sure that your fabric is straight. I see mine looks a little off there. After you make sure that you are even, press down and cut. And there is the front and back of your bag. Okay, and the bottom half of your bag, you get the material you want to use for the bottom half. And it's got stuff all over it, and you can see it because it's black. But you can take the bottom half of your material and I'm just going to lay it on my mat here. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is cut some of it off to make it easier for me, because I'm going to have to fold it. So right now I'm just going to cut just a piece of it off. It don't have to be even, because I just want to be able to see better. So now I'm going to fold it, because it's just easier for me to do them when they're folded. Then I'm going to put it over here a little bit past the 0 so I can make sure it's even. Make sure it's both all on the fold here, even with the fold. Even with this line. And this part is probably where you're going to want to iron your material. And don't iron it on your mat because you'll melt your mat. Or make your mat bow. I found that out the hard way. And it's easier when you have a ironed edge. So that you make sure that you got your fold right, just right. And then you can take your material. And this will be for the bottom half. Just even it up. And I'm going to go 10.5 down. And then I'm going to unfold my material. Put it on the line. Make sure it's even on that line. Cut off the edge to make sure it's even. And then come over. We did 14.5, didn't we? Come over 14.5. And then cut. And there's your bottom half of your purse.
I want a purse too.
Mom, I'll make you a purse.
You will make
Okay.
me a purse? You gotta make me a basket.
Look over my mess, because I am a messy, messy quilter. You'll want to go to your sewing machine. And you take your purse. You're going to take the front side of it. And you're going to turn it upside down. And you're going to turn it around this way. So it's going to be that way and upside down. And lay it against your chest or your table or whatever. And then you put the black. You put the black up next to it, or whatever material you're using, you put the right sides together. Which means, you know, the sides that you want showing, the good sides, put them together. And then put your, make sure it's even. And I do a 1/4 inch seam, and my foot on here is a 1/4 inch foot, and yours probably is too, so I just line it up with the edge of this. That way I know that I'm making it even. So I just line it up with the edge right there. And then I start sewing. And I take a few stitches, and then I back stitch. It's not really necessary to back stitch on it right now because you're going to be folding it and putting it together and stuff, but I like to back stitch anyway just to make sure that it won't come apart. And as I go, I make sure that everything is even. And I sew fast. You don't have to sew fast. You can sew slow, and my thread just broke. So give me just a minute to rethread my sewing machine and figure out why it done that. And I found out why it got stuck. I've got an automatic threader on mine. I don't know if yours has got one or not, but it's a lot easier to do. Okay, let me see if I can do this again. Where I already back stitched that one time, it wouldn't be necessary to really do it again, but I'm going to anyway, just to be sure. And then as I go, I'm going to make sure everything is even and make sure that my fabric stays right along with this foot right here. And I stop every once in a while just to make sure everything's lined up right. And then at the end, you're going to want to back stitch. And I want to show you something here that happened. If your materials are two different kinds of materials, even though you've cut them right, they may come out where one of them's longer than the other, because this material right here stretched while I was sewing it. And see, it came out where there was that much more than what there should have been. But you can take care of that after you get everything sewn together. You can square this up, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so there's the front and the bottom. And you're going to want to take it and lay it on your chest and fold it up like this. And then you take this one and make sure that you get it right. So it's going to go like this. It's going to go upside down, and it's going to go against this. And where the material on this side was a little bit longer, you're going to want to start over on this side and make sure that you start sewing. Make sure that you've got two even sides. You don't want to start sewing on this side where this material was shorter, or longer, I mean. And if there's anything about this video that you don't understand, just let me know, and I'll try to talk you through it, or try to make another video explaining it better. But I just put my foot down here, and I start sewing, and I back stitch, and then I keep sewing, making sure everything is nice and lined up. And like I said, I sew fast. You may want to sew slower, just to make sure that you keep everything lined up according to this foot right here. And see, this one's going to come out longer on this side too, because the material is a little stretchier than the black material that I've got. And when you get to the end, go ahead and back stitch. But where you're going to sew these together, it really don't matter if you back stitch or not. And there is the front, bottom, and back of your bag. And now you're going to want to go to your ironing board, or whatever ironing surface you have. Look over mine, it's messy, it's got a lot of stuff on it. And you need to take and fold it down. And you need to iron over top of it to set the seam. And after you set the seam, open your pocketbook up. I didn't cut my threads off there. And then you're going to want to iron your extra material that you've got there, your seam allowance. You're going to want to iron it towards the darkest part, which would, with this one would be the black. That way it don't show through or anything. So you iron it down the best you can. And this is the part where starch comes in handy. Or you can even put, if you got an iron that uses steam, you can use steam. So then you got that done. So then you take this part and do the same thing to it. You iron it to lock in your seam. And you take and flip it. And then you iron that seam allowance down to the darkest side. And of course you're going to want to cut your threads, but I'm the queen of not cutting threads. I don't cut my threads until I get done, but I should. Okay. And after you get done ironing your seams down, just make sure that your material is nice and flat. Don't have any wrinkles. Then you come back over to your cutting board. Look over my mess. If I'm not rotary cutter. And take your, where your material was a little longer there, just take it and lay it down on your cutting board. And you take your, you're going to want to lay it down to where it's even against this line. That way you've got something to go by. And then you take and lay it, your ruler down here. And you see where that is on a 0 and that's on a 0. You're going to want to come over a little bit. Let me see if I can make it a little easier. Make sure that this part right here, where it's the black part, make sure it's on this line right here. That way that's easier for you. And you make sure that this is all lined up. It's all lined up through here. And it's all lined up with that. Then you take your cutter, your ruler, and you just trim the edge of it off right there. And that squares that up. And that gets that extra little piece off of there. And then you can just slide it down. And make sure you stay lined up with this right here. Make sure this stays lined up. And then you just go ahead and slice this off too. And sometimes it looks like you're taking a lot off of it, but you really are not. And that is how you put the front and the back and the bottom of your purse together.